Welcome to a very special edition of the Bear Trap today on Super Sunday, where I want to take a moment to tribute a Chicago Bears legend, and as of yesterday, Hall of Famer Brian Urlacher. Now for me, Brian Urlacher was not only a legend for the Bears, but a window for me, not only to Chicago Bear fandom, but into football itself. Even though as much as I love and involved in football now, I didn't get into it until later in my younger years. So growing up, of course, football was always surrounding me. You know, I watched the Super Bowl Shuffle on VHS. I seen the highlights from the Bears Super Bowl against the Patriots over and over again. You knew Mike Ditka and all these people, but football wasn't really something I got into that deeply until much later. You had the NFL Blitz and the Madden, so I knew about football, but live action, actually watching the game, wasn't something that I was deeply into. But I remember the very moment that I got into football as a sport in its entirety. It was a Monday night game, Bears versus the Dolphins, and my older brother and dad was watching. And I remember that I'm kind of, they show the graphics, the highlight matchups. And I remember it was a big deal about this Ricky Williams versus Brian Urlacher. And I, of course, like I said, you knew some of the players from the games and whatnot. I'm like, okay, Ricky Williams, I know who that is. And I'm like, who's this Brian Urlacher? And they were like, oh, well, he's on our team. And he's one of the best defenders. As a kid, you kind of know all the offensive players, but it's like, okay, well, who's this defensive player? And he filled up the screen, to say. I don't want to get too poetic, but you saw that 54, the little barbed wire tattoo in the middle of the defense directing everybody, and you just kind of was like, wow. And I remember from that day on, I was like, man, live action football is actually just as fun and engaging as playing it on the game. And that's kind of when I got into football. And then, of course, as a Chicago Bear, or as a Chicago native, it was just like, okay, man, you remember Mike Singletary and all these different things, but I'm like, man, we got a superstar right now. And that kind of changed the game for me forever. And then as I grew up as a fan and, continued to live as a Bears fan, you saw Urlacher over the years, of course, do some of the greatest things that he did. Along with a great defensive unit, but being that leader, being that constant force in the middle. And then you had the Ray Lewis playing, of course, simultaneously. But as much as people talked about great offensive players, or even people talked about Ray Lewis, I'm like, Chicago, we have our own guy, and I'll take him over anybody. And I just was enamored with Urlacher. He was the first person to get me into football, and then to really make me feel that spirit as a Chicago Bears fan, because we were about bearing down, we were about playing defense, being tough, being fast, being physical, taking the ball away, and he just exuded all those things, as I'm sure his teammates would probably say. And so growing up over the years, with my fandom starting with him, and then all the way to the end of his career, and to see how the Bears have changed since, he'll always be that figure to me. He'll always be that guy that you want to be like. I remember senior year football, I got to wear 54, and I thought I was the coolest dude, man. I always wanted to be like Urlacher. You just wanted to control that defense. You wanted to demand that respect. You wanted to go hard every play. So he was definitely one of the people I looked up to in football, but more importantly, he changed my life and got me into it. So that's my tribute real quick to Brian Urlacher, and just congratulating him making it into the Hall of Fame. Not just making it in the Hall of Fame, but of course we had Ray Lewis, that was always kind of next to Urlacher in his career. And then after his career, it's like, okay, well, Ray Lewis is definitely going in. I don't think there's room for two middle linebackers. Urlacher will have to do it some other time. But to see him get first ballot Hall of Fame, even with Ray Lewis in the picture, I think that is probably the most exciting part. I'm happy he's going in, but I'm happy he got first ballot, because that validates everything that I saw in Urlacher growing up. That validates a lot of things that us Bears fans felt about him as the face of our franchise. And I'm just so excited to see him go to Canton and make that speech. And this is a big win for Bears fans. I hope everybody appreciates the moment. And would love for everybody to go to the comment section and just kind of say what you thought about Urlacher, what he meant to you as a fan. And yes, let's celebrate this moment. And thank you guys for listening. Remember, stay up and bear down.